All right, Mark Murphy, I'm back and I'm a day late, a day later than usual. Sometimes I do that. I went to a wedding this weekend up in Pennsylvania, the beautiful Doylestown area. Had a blast. Now I'm back in the chair trying to share some travel tips with you and some insights. Today I'm going to go over a few things. I'm going to talk about how to make travel more affordable, meaning seeking out alternative, destinations that also can marry traditional experiences. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the RV travel boom. That's been a boom that really took hold right as COVID was in the midst of things. People wanted to get out and travel, get out of their lockdown states, wherever they happen to be. Fortunately for me, I was in Fort Lauderdale, one of the first states, Florida, to open up. But I did travel all across the country in an RV. I'm going to share that experience and where it is today and where I think it's going. Talk a little bit about my recent trip to Key West. And I'm also going to conclude with something that, Frank Bastone. Hey, buddy, thanks for that email. I still haven't responded to you, but going to talk about river cruising to wrap things up. My dog distracted me at the end of the segment last week, and I didn't get to it. In terms of the detail, I wanted to get to it. So that's coming. So with that said, it's really interesting today because, well, first of all, the wedding. Let me just talk about the wedding. So Doylestown's a great little town. Went to a beautiful wedding up there. And I just want to say, it's not fair that the woman who got married, because she's taking her husband's name, isn't going to be able to vote anymore. I mean, it's really disturbing. Chuck, talking to you, Chuck Schumer, you need to get on this, man. I mean, what's a married woman to do? Oh, hold on a second. Yeah, my wife took my name when she got married because I had a better last name, Murphy. Everybody calls her Murph. Who doesn't want to be called Murph? Yeah, and she's voted in every election since then. It's a miracle. How did she do it? Yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to bore you with those details, but one of the challenges today, I think, for every traveler, and let's set aside the increase in gas prices because of the oil spike that we just saw because of the Iran conflict, because that's going to come back down. Prices are going to come back down. Not long term. I think long term we're in for an oil boom in terms of pricing. So I think that's still coming because of demand versus supply. This disruption, as everybody saw, I was watching the futures market out to looking at the pricing in oil out in April, and it went from, in the 50s weeks ago. It was around 80, then it spiked to 90, and then boom, over the weekend, it hit 120. Then it came right back down to 90 and then into the 80s. So as everyone was throwing the panic attack, guess what? Things reversed very quickly. Again, long term, it's why I'm an energy investor. I think the trend is our friend if you're an investor in the space. And for those who are concerned about it, even if you have a few shekels, you can basically hedge your costs, let's say in energy for cooling or heating your home or driving your car. You can hedge that increased cost by investing in stocks in the space that will go up as those costs go up, and therefore throw off enough cash to very, very nicely cover that and make yourself a lot of money. Okay, I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm just telling you what I do. And interesting enough, as I've watched stocks drop, my portfolio has gone up as a result of that investment strategy and looking out long term. So with that said, how do you make travel more affordable? What are the trends in travel? One of the trends in travel, it's been around for decades. It's shorter trips, closer to home, and more frequent trips. And I think part of what's driving that is people don't want to spend a day getting to their destination if they have a week's vacation and then a day getting back and lose it on both ends. And they also don't want to do a longer trip if they only have 2 weeks vacation. Let's say they take the full 2 weeks, because 4, 5, 6 months later, they're going to feel that burnout from work and they're going to want to basically be like, oh my gosh, I got to wait how long for my next vacation? Oh boy, stress level and everything else. And I think the trend really helps you recharge. It helps you explore places that you can reach by car or by air. And it's typically travel that involves less than 3 hours point to point. So for me, going to Key West is about a 4 hour drive from where I live in Fort Lauderdale. And that's something that we did just this past, I guess, about 2 weeks ago. And we just stayed down there for 3 nights. It's the perfect amount of time and came back. But we didn't do it the way a lot of people are booking travel these days. We did it in an RV. So I'm going to share that experience. But I think understanding the trend of more trips, shorter duration, closer to home is definitely going to continue, especially in a society where most people get automatically 2 weeks of vacation, as opposed to like my nephew who's not even 30. He lives in the Netherlands. I think his next job is going to give him like 5 weeks vacation. And under normal circumstances, if you were going to get that kind of that amount of vacation, you'd have to be with a company for many, many years. And it could be like 5-year anniversary, you get the 3rd week, 10-year anniversary, you get the 4th week. So theoretically, he would have had to work for the same company for 10 years in the US in order to get that 4 weeks of vacation. He's already at 5 and he's starting a brand new job very shortly in the Netherlands. And people think we're crazy. And I think we are to an extent in terms of how hard Americans work. But then again, look at all of the innovation, inventions, breakthrough technologies, you name it. The vast majority of those come out of the United States. So we are a capitalistic society, and we believe in building businesses. We're more entrepreneurial than any other country I can think of. Maybe statistically, there's some that have a higher per capita ratio of entrepreneurs to the general working public. But if you ever wanted to build something, this is the place to actually do that. So I just wanted you to know that there are things you can do to take advantage of that 2 or maybe 3 weeks of vacation, spread it out. So every couple of months, you give yourself a nice refresh. You come back supercharged up and you're ready to hit the ground running because you've taken that time to basically put aside the phone, put aside the computer, and just chill. And that's something you need to do. But at the same time, there are people that want to get out and do stuff, right? So they do vacations that I wouldn't consider relaxing, but more experiential. And that's great too. You can have it all and you can mix it up over the course of a year, doing 3, 4, 5 day short trips and kind of combine them up, like maybe alternate them. And one of the ways to do that is, and very affordably, is in an RV. Now, when I say affordably, I'm talking about the cost once you own an RV and you want to travel places. I'm talking about that cost. Because RVs, you can buy a used RV for less than a car, or you can buy one that costs $2 million. Yeah. And those are the ones you see like the entertainment stars, the rock stars in. They look like buses, but they're just tricked out RVs. Yeah, they could be a couple of $1,000,000 easily, but that's not how the typical RVer goes. And you can go really cheap and pull like a pop-up behind you, or you can trick it out and go Mac Daddy. And I've owned 3 different RVs. I'm going to explain the ones I've owned and kind of where it started and where I'm at today. And then I'll get into the Key West trip that we just had with a little bit of a travel hack that gets you to experience or allows you to experience some of the 5-star resorts, even though you might be staying in a campground. Now think about that. All right. So RV travel. I bought my first RV. It was a 25-foot leisure travel van on a Sprinter, Mercedes-Benz Sprinter chassis. Great product. Had no problems with it. Drove it for, about 2 years. And then I upgraded to what's called a Super C, which basically is a truck. It's like a Freightliner front end truck with a chassis that they build the RV on top of. And that was a 37 footer. And when people say, yeah, it's not comfortable to be in an RV, blah, 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 whatever, this thing had a washer, dryer stacked. It had a bedroom you could close off. It had a bathroom that you could close off. And then it had a living quarters and then the front cab. And the thing was 37 feet. And we pulled a Jeep because we wanted to do some off-road stuff because we're traveling out west, all-wheel drive, etc. And we towed a Jeep. And we went all over the country. And this is all during COVID. So we left Fort Lauderdale in May. We didn't get back till late December. And we probably put on, gosh, I don't know, 10,000 miles driving all over the place. We got as far out as Washington State along the coast. And we had some issues because of the fires that were taking place out there at the time. This is back in 2020. So it made it a little bit of an adventure, but it was a great trip. And the best part about that trip, to be frank, was seeing how the different states and cities handled things like COVID mandates. You got to wear a mask or you don't. You can't be, 6 feet or closer to somebody, or you can. And it really came down along political lines. And it was a pretty big eye opener because even in Texas, that wasn't like crazy about mandates, but in Austin they were. So one of our little hacks was we would pay $20 for a black card from Planet Fitness because there's virtually a Planet Fitness everywhere we went. And then we would go to the Planet Fitness, get our workout in, shower at the Planet Fitness, and then head out for the day. And when I went to the Planet Fitness, let's say pick a spot in Georgia, workout, no problem. Florida, workout, no problem. Austin, you had to wear a mask while you're doing cardio. While there's 12 people in the entire gym and the ceiling's 50 feet high. And you're sucking in your own carbon dioxide. By the way, I thought carbon dioxide was really bad. We got to get rid of all carbon dioxide. But the rebreathers with the masks, they were just sucking in their own carbon dioxide. So it made zero sense. And I think today there are still people that think masks actually work. And God bless you if you want to wear a mask. But once again, I go back to my COVID stuff and say, if masks work, wear a mask. Don't bother me. Just wear your own mask. You'll be safe. If the vaccine for COVID works, get vaccinated. Don't worry whether I'm vaccinated or not. And by the way, isn't that a violation of HIPAA? Yeah, all that went out the window. And too many sheep went along with it. And the travel industry pathetically went along with it and actually did things that made their business less accepting and less inclusive for people that didn't want to take an experimental jab. Yeah, Frank Del Rio, talking to you, former chairman of NCL Holdings. And I'm not going to get into that story. You can go look up the vaccine passport / mandate that we effectively got rid of. If you wanted to have a business in Florida, you couldn't force people to get vaccinated. But they went and appealed it and then got the appeal to overturn that lower court ruling and imposed that for people that wanted to take a cruise. So guess how many cruises I've been on? And I've been on a lot before COVID, but since, and I'm right here in Fort Lauderdale. Oh my gosh, there's a cruise port, I could fly my drone to if it didn't go past an airport, because you can't do that near airports. But anyway, that's a different story. Yeah, that's how close it is. And I've been on 0 cruises. And I know there's a lot of people that feel the same way. At the same time, I think cruises are a great vacation. I just have not had a very big desire to go on one, given how stupid some of the executives were during COVID. And, God bless, their stocks have recovered in part, but they've got mountains of debt as a result of acting like sheep while cruises were basically anchored off the coast of Florida, just sitting out there. No passengers, not allowed to sail for 18 months, but hell, get in a beer can and fly to Singapore, no problem. I mean, you couldn't make the argument that if you're going to allow people to fly on planes for 17 hours, if you're a cruise executive, You can't make the case that it's probably safer to be on a cruise ship. But hold on, Mark, you forgot about that Princess Cruise where the people were dying from COVID. Yeah, yeah, they were on that trip, and then that Holland America ship that couldn't dock anywhere because they would not allow them into the countries. Yeah, because people had panic attacks. Panic attacks. And of course, depending on the cruise, you might have an average age of 80 on that cruise, especially those long itineraries, because most people, back to the vacation situation, they can't go on a 3, 4, 6 week or 4 month round the world cruise or partial round the world cruise. They can't do that. So you get an older demographic. Many of them have health issues. And yeah, that's who it was affecting. But again, I digress. I said I wouldn't get too far into it. All right, that's it. I'm done with that. Let's get back to the RVs. So I went from a Super C. We sold it about a year after because guess what happened? And I say a year after COVID in 2020. Then in 2021, we still had it and we were still booking some cool trips. And then every Tom, Dick, and Harry bought an RV, and every place you wanted to go to, if you were trying to book January date where you're living in January, but you wanted to book April, yeah, first available for Key West at the one we wanted to stay at was like August. Who the hell wants to go to Key West in August? No, thanks. I'm up north. I'm doing the snowbird thing, but I don't call it a snowbird. I'm not down here because of the snow in the winter. I'm not down here in the summer because of the damn heat. And luckily, I can afford to do that. But before I bought a house up north, I owned an RV and drove that RV and camped up north. That's what I did. But the problem became you couldn't get into the places you wanted to get into because everybody had an RV. Everybody was booking RVs. I made a lot of money on Camping World stock. I think I bought it at like $4. I sold it at 15 to 18. It went to like 40. I wish I had held on, but you know what they say? Never complain when you make money. I could have made more, could have doubled my money and then some from where I sold, but I took the profits and invested elsewhere, energy. But I saw that trend in the RV space, and I was like, man, this stuff's going to boom. And sure enough, the stock followed. I don't know what the stock's doing today. I don't own it. God bless you if you do. But the problem I ran into is everybody was buying RVs and you couldn't find a place. So I sold my RV to a guy down the street. Just happened to drive by. I was getting it detailed. He's like, hey, is that yours? And next thing you know, I parked it in he wanted me to park it in his driveway so he could, walk around inside of it down the street. I was like, no problem. He had a plug because the guy that lived there before had one. They could plug it in. I was like, great, that's great. And then, I got a call because I had listed it to sell it, and I started getting calls like right away because the demand was so high. And I priced it like 40 grand more than I paid for it. And people were like, yeah, I want to come see it. So I texted the guy down the street, this guy, Willis, and I said, hey, just FYI, I got a guy coming to look at the RV tomorrow, and he's going to be here around 8. And just FYI, he's going to be in your driveway looking at the RV. Guy calls me on the phone. I'm at the dinner. He's like, what are you talking about? That's my RV. It's parked in my driveway and plugged into my freaking house. And tell that guy he ain't getting the RV. So I was like, whoa, all right. So you're going to buy it, right? And he goes, yep, absolutely. I said, all right, cool. And we both had accounts at Morgan Stanley, so it made it very easy. The next day, 10 a.m., sent him a quick text. I said, here's my account number. Tell your guy. And they could just transfer it between the accounts. The money came in like 10 minutes later. And I called him up. And I said, hey, I just want you to know that RV might be parked in your house, at your house. And it may be plugged into your outlet. And you might even have a set of keys. But I've got your X amount of dollars, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I still have the title. He's like, USOB. Yeah, so anyway, I had some fun with him. But we got out of the RV stuff for, about 3-4 years. And then last year, we decided to do the van thing, the Sprinter van. And we decided to do it so that we didn't have to store the RV. We could park it in our driveway, use it as a second car, sold our SUV. So now we've got a sedan and we got a camper van. And that camper van is only 20 feet long, so it fits everywhere. It's made by a company called Grech. I call it Grech RV, Grech. And it's a beautiful way to travel the country. And we went all the way out to Boulder, Colorado last summer. Then we made our way all the way to the Jersey Shore. And we took about total travel time, about 4 weeks, about 2.5 to 3 going out. Stopped in some great places, including Nashville, and camped there. And then we ended up out in Boulder for about a month. And then we took 7 to 10 days to make it back across the country with some stops along the way. And it was a great experience. And the most important thing to me was I have a black lab named Ben. And you may have seen him on some of my TikToks and other stuff. I refuse to put my dog on a plane. So even though it would probably be easier for just to fly out, crate the dog, put him on the plane, and then get him off the plane in Denver, I was like, I'm not doing that to my guy. Plus, there's so many places in the US, despite traveling all over the world, for most of my life, I've never seen, never experienced. And so it opened my eyes to a whole new world of travel. And I got to tell you, when I see some of these influencers, I've shared this on previous podcasts, there are people from like the UK, and they're like, what the hell is wrong with people, man? The US, he goes, if I lived in the US, I'd never leave. There's so many places. This country is unbelievable. It's amazing. Yet we have people that were born and raised here that want to trash it. Well, I hate to tell you, folks, it's a pretty amazing place with amazing scenery. So, for instance, I've done the Blue Ridge Parkway by RV. I've done the coastal towns like the Outer Banks coming down that way. I've gone out west, all the way out west, and done that. I've done the national parks, all of those things that I never would have been able to do without basically taking the first step and saying, this is one part of travel I like to do. But I also like 5-star overwater bungalows in Bora Bora by the St. Regis. It's amazing. But I'm going to drop $35,000 with airfare for 7 nights at the St. Regis in Bora Bora. That's just how it's going to work out between the daily food, the nightly cost, and flying to Tahiti. That's how it adds up. So under that scenario, yeah, I do love that type of travel. I consider myself a luxury traveler, but at the same time, I love being able to get into little spots, park my van, park right on a waterfront site, pop out a couple of chairs. I've got my kitchen. I've got a bathroom, my own bathroom, which is wonderful. If I want to use the shower, I can use the shower in this van. It's turnkey, man. I can cook. I've got a cooktop. I've got an oven, sink, all the water I need, everything. The downside, you got to empty the tanks. That's about the worst thing. And it's actually really easy. So let me take you into my Key West experience and let you see a little bit about what that was like. Because I did a whole bunch of cool stuff. And I got to tell you, man, it was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So take a look at this. This is just a little place called Hank's with a food truck right there in Key West. That was a fun little spot. We got some food, had a drink. We were riding our bikes because the campground we were at was about 5 miles of bike riding to get to the sunset point there at the base of Key West. But it's a great way to go. And FYI, as you get older, you can buy an electric bike for under $1,000 and you just bring your bikes with you. And that's what we did. So we had our electric bikes and we rarely use the electric. But if we're tired at the end of the day and we just want to get back, that's what we did. We also can leave our dog in the van and have peace of mind because we have a temperature monitor that sends us updates should the temperature get out of range. And so we set the range. It's called Necto, Necto. I've used several of them, absolutely the best, most reliable. because it has to be reliable. Otherwise, if something should cut out on your AC, let's say your AC unit gets fried for some reason, it can happen. You can rush back and you can get your dog out and make sure your dog's okay. So you got to have these are little things that you have to think about. But again, we basically left the dog at like 11 in the morning. We rode our bikes, got to where we wanted to go. We hung out. We ended up biking back at around 2:30, quarter to 3, because 3:30 ballpark is his feeding time. And we had peace of mind the whole way. And, that was during the afternoon. But one of the nights we did this. We had a sunset dinner, and I can't remember the name of the property, but I'm pretty sure the restaurant was called Yellowtail. It was called Yellowtail. But anyway, this was about a half a mile from our campground, Boyd's Campground, which is a waterfront campground. Wonderful people, wonderful location. Total out of pocket for 3 nights was about $320 with tax. Whereas if we stayed in a hotel there, it would have been about $800 a night. So that was a pretty good deal. And because we have our own traveling house, it was a beautiful thing because we could have our breakfast there. If we wanted to, we could eat lunch there. And then we could spend our money on dinners out like this dinner here. But something that people don't really realize is when you're traveling and you're going places, you're not trapped like in an RV at that spot. So let's take Key West, for instance. Take a look at this view. This is a view of the beach looking eastward at a property by Hilton called Casa Marina. And it's on the east side in a real quiet area of Key West. And a buddy of mine happened to be down there, saw a post by my wife and said, "Hey man, are you guys in Key West?" He lives in New Jersey at the beach. And I said, "Yeah, man, we're down here right now." And he goes, "Holy cow, I'm here too." And I said, "Where are you?" He goes, "I'm at Casa Marina." I said, "Sweet." I said, "Are you going to be there for a bit?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "You know what? We'll swing by like in 30 or 40 minutes." And we rode our bikes over, hung out for a bit, and took in the view and had a couple of drinks. It was fantastic. And what people don't realize is a property like this, take a look at this property and you'll see what, let me just get rid of one of these things here and get that out of there. Let's get that out of there. Let's get that out of there. And let's add this bad boy. Let's go. Gonna get that out of there. All right, I should be good now. Okay, so this is Casa Marina. Okay, I'm gonna show you just a shot of the property when you approach it. Stunning, stunning property. It's also a historic property back from the 1920s in their history. This is when you leave the lobby, that's your walk out, and to your left is where you'll see dining and drinking and people just hanging out at tables there. And then you'll see they have 2 oceanfront pools. They have an adults area. Really very, very nice, beautiful property. But here's the best part about it. I wasn't staying there. I wasn't paying $600, $700, $800, $900 a night for that hotel, nor was my buddy. What did he do? He rented an Airbnb down the street. And while he's renting the Airbnb down the street, he jumps over to Casa Marina, has some lunch, has some drinks, takes in the view, and really enjoys it. At the same time, he could take advantage of everything that they have there. And the way that works is anybody who's been on a cruise will know that when you go to a place, let's say Jamaica, or you go to Bermuda or whatever, you can get what's called a day pass, a resort pass. So if you're there on a cruise ship, you can get off the ship and you can pay some money and then go to a hotel, stay at that hotel all day, dine at their restaurants. Obviously, you're going to pay for that. Use their beach chairs, hang out at their pool. If they're on the ocean, which ideally is the case, then you're going to go and hang out at their, on their beach, and they're going to provide you with towels and everything else. And so you can do all of these things for a few bucks per person. In the case of Casa Marina, let me just go there. At Casa Marina, what's interesting is They work with a company called, I think it's called Resort Pass. Let me just pull it up for you. Yes, Resort Pass. So resortpass.com. And depending on the date you're going, it can be as little as $50 per person. So check this out. So $50 per person. And what does that get you? Well, there's the list, but you probably can't see it, so I'm going to rattle it off for you. You can use the oceanfront family pool between 9 and 5, the adults only pool. You have the private beach access. You can use beach and pool lounge chairs, but it's first come, first serve. You get towel service. Obviously, if you want to order drinks or food at the pool, you can purchase that. You can use their Wi-Fi. If you're driving there, you get free self and valet parking in this particular hotel, and you can use their fitness center. So think about that. If I want to go use a fitness center at some place when I'm traveling, and I don't have, like, I use the Planet Fitness Black Card because I just want to get in, get my workout, grab a shower, and get out. But if I wanted to go spend the day here, I could show up in my workout clothes, bring a change of clothes. I could bring 2 changes of clothes. So I could show up in the morning and work out at 9 a.m., work out from 9 to 10, take a shower, throw on my bathing suit, step out, hang out on the beach for the next couple of hours, go hang at the pool, order lunch at the pool, then go swimming in the ocean, go swimming in the pool. By like 4:30, go take a shower, put on what I'm going to wear for the evening, hang out at the bar if I want, and then ultimately even have dinner here if I feel like it, or there's a million dinner choices in Key West itself. So that's for $50 a person. The most I've ever seen it for this particular property is $100 per person. But I can tell you, there are gym passes that are $30, $40 a day just to use a fitness center like LA Fitness, even if they'll let you in for a day pass, because some will not do that. This is a way to make travel and experiences a lot more affordable for people that can't handle that $700, $800, $900 per night hotel booking, plus all the ancillary costs that come with it, which bring you well over $1,000 a day if you're a couple traveling. That's just a fact, not including your airfare if you're flying in from somewhere. So this is something to think about. And most of the resort hotels have something like this, especially in Key West, because they do get the cruise traffic. And a lot of places that get the cruise traffic also allow for this. So I would tell you to take a look at at where you might want to think about traveling. If you're thinking about doing the RV thing, that's cool. I think it's great. I'd mix it up with RV trips and regular trips. At the same time, I'm not thinking about the money. I'm thinking about the convenience of having this camper van, because guess what? I live in Fort Lauderdale. How about I want to go down, pull out a chair and sit at the beach? How nice is it in the middle of the beach to have your van sitting there, and you can go into it. You got your dog there. You can take him out and walk him. Some beaches allow dogs, some don't. In Fort Lauderdale, there's about a 3-block stretch where you can bring a dog. So we can bring him and have him hang out. If it gets too warm, we put him back inside in a nice air-conditioned van. If we want to go make lunch, we can make lunch. If we want to have a drink, we can make a drink. We can do all of those things. It's so convenient. And I got to tell you, after owning 3 different RVs, my favorite now is the one I have, which is the camper van. And I can't say enough good things about the experiences we've already had in just, 10 months. And we'll be doing another road trip coming up soon, and it's going to be a long one. And we've already mapped it out. And we're going to check out some new destinations, everything from the West Coast of Florida up to Nashville, and then across the country to visit some family and friends before we end up out in Colorado for a stretch. So you'll be hearing from me on the road, but you'll also be hearing from me when I get to Boulder, Colorado, and I get set up there. But without a doubt, great experience. Some people will poo-poo it. I'm just telling you, I've done it all. Been to about 80 countries, 5-star resorts, overwater bungalows, everything else. And this is the type of travel that I very, very much enjoy. And I know a lot of people out there, especially you youngsters, because I'm an older guy, you youngins, I know a lot of you got into that whole camper van experience, especially during COVID, or they call it, van life. I don't want to live in a van, but do I have a problem traveling for a couple of weeks and actually sleeping in it? Absolutely not. And just as a final note on the RV experience, when I bought it, it was really with the idea that I'm going to have a way to transport my dog comfortably. I'm going to have something that's going to allow me to do day trips to different state parks because there's so many great state parks in Florida. You can just drive up an hour for the day, pull in, park right near the beach, do hiking trails, do whatever. And I love that convenience. And I thought we would be spending the nights in hotels, but it was so comfortable that we threw that out the window and we stayed in the van the entire trip out for a few weeks and loved every single minute of it. So I don't sell vans. I don't sell RVs. I'm just telling you, there's a lot of ways to experience the United States, and you don't have to break the bank to do it. Okay. You don't have to break the bank. And just, I guess one more thing. They finance these things like you're buying a house, so you can finance it out for years and years and years. If you use it a lot, then great. That's okay. But if you can basically buy a used one that is a reputable manufacturer, you're always better off doing that because they depreciate really fast. And I would suggest you do that and try to pay cash or minimally finance something at today's rates. All right. So those are my thoughts on RV travel. And now it's an interesting segue to river cruising. And the reason being is when I pack up my RV to go somewhere, I only pack it once. And when I come home, I unpack it. River cruising versus, let's say, doing a tour. If you go to Europe and take a tour, you're going to be on a coach or a small van, depending on how big your group is. And, you're going to get the message that, okay, we're leaving tomorrow at 7. You have to have your luggage outside your door by 6 a.m., yada, yada, yada. And then they grab your luggage for you. They bring it down. They put it on the van or on the bus. You have your breakfast. You're getting ready. You meet the van. You head out the door and you go to your next destination. So you're constantly packing and unpacking. You get to the next spot, you got to unpack. Then before you go to the next spot, you got to pack it back up again. I always find that no matter who you are, you always pack too much. So another travel tip is to find some clothes that can be interchanged, that you can layer up, layer down, depending on what the weather's going to be like and whatnot, that the colors are pretty much consistent and they work, whether it's tan and black or whatever you happen to be wearing. Don't mix it up with a bunch of different colors, different pairs of shoes, etc. I like to have workout shoes separate from the shoes that I will walk around in, but I say, screw that. I combine it up. I bring one pair of very comfortable Hoka sneakers that I can walk for miles in, but I can also work out in, even though that particular pair is not my favorite pair of workout sneakers, just personal preference. But I learned a long time ago that you want to minimize the packing if you can, whether you're doing the motor coach tour or whether you're doing the RV trip, whatever, because space and I think the hassle factor are super critical when it comes to travel, because it just, once again, it takes you 2 seconds just to throw your stuff in. It's a lot less stressful than figuring out, oh my God, I got to pack this bag, I got to get everything in there. And, some people will bring 2 massive suitcases, that can only be checked for like a 1-week trip because they want to have this, they want to have that, blah, 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 blah. And my attitude is, don't do it. Don't do it. Nobody cares that you have 12 dresses. Nobody cares that you got 6 different pairs of shoes or 6 different pairs of pants or 20 different tops. Nobody cares. And if they're neutral enough, you can dress it up like a black t-shirt. Obviously, this is my XXXY Athletics t-shirt that's going to trigger some people because they don't believe in actual biology. But I believe in, boys are boys and girls are girls. Call me crazy. I'm such a crazy concept. But yeah, I like supporting this company. That was the the lady who was the former executive at Levi's who got kicked out the door because she questioned things and then started her own brand. So I like supporting people like that because they go against the grain and they do things um, to support things they believe in. So I support them. And I support people that want to travel. I want people to get out and see the world. I want them to get out and experience different cultures. But I also want them to realize that even if they don't have a lot of money, there are some really great ways to travel. And I'll give you one more example. In the Outer Banks, there's a company, and you'll have to look it up. And they have these companies not just in the Outer Banks in different places, but Outer Banks has a lot of RV locations. And if you don't have an RV, they will drop a trailer for you. And it could be a 40-foot trailer that's the size of a tiny home, even bigger than a tiny home. And you can just say, hey, these are the dates I'm coming. They reserve the space. They bring in the trailer. They drop it there. And if you've ever been inside they call it a fifth wheel, like a newer design fifth wheel, you think you're in a luxurious home. And again, it puts you right in the destination and is another inexpensive way to do a family vacation or a multifamily, because some of these places have like 4 bedrooms. Some of these units, they're massive, multiple bathrooms. I mean, and they do everything for you. So all you have to do is show up, use the place as your home for that week, and then take your stuff and leave. So you unpack once, and then you pack and you leave, and it's a week later, and you got a great value destination, and you brought your car so you could explore things like the Wright Brothers Museum and where they did their first flight down there in Kitty Hawk, and you can go to the beach and you can just have this wonderful vacation. And many of these RV parks are literally right on the beach. So you might not have a direct view, but you walk over a dune and bam, you're right there, right from your front door. You're 100 feet or less to the ocean. So it's a beautiful thing. And I would encourage everyone to find ways to experience travel, even on a budget. All right, back to river cruising. So what I love about river cruising is how it's growing and the experiences you can gain from river cruising. So let me give you an example. Europe was really like the river cruise place, right? You know, whether you're on the Seine, whether you're on the Douro in Portugal, whether you're on the Danube. I mean, you can basically cruise from, let's say, Nuremberg to Budapest, stop in these Bavarian towns along the way in Germany, get out and enjoy Hungary. You go to a beer garden. I mean, like in Regensburg, for instance, which we did. And again, you're only unpacking when you get on the boat, and that's it. Because that boat is going to take you to these villages. It's going to tie up right at the dock. You're going to walk off, let's say in Vienna. Many of these river cruise vessels have bikes that are available for you to use if you're an active person like me. And you can hop on one of their bikes and cruise around Vienna. I happened to cruise around on a skateboard before I broke my ass riding a one wheel. I forgot how old I was. I literally broke my femur riding a one wheel. So here's a tip. Don't buy one wheels. And if you do, buy the fangs, which are the wheels that when it fails, which mine did, and the gyroscope nosedives you at 12 miles an hour and slams you to the ground, you don't end up having 2 hip surgeries to fix it. And then 6 years later, have to get a hip replacement because you were too stupid to realize that you probably are too old to be riding a one wheel. Yeah, that was me. I thought I was immortal, but obviously that wasn't the case. But river cruising is a wonderful thing. You can cruise the rivers in the US. You can cruise the Mississippi. You can cruise the Columbia and Snake Rivers. You can do that and follow in the footsteps of Lewis and Clark, the great adventurers, and their path out west. You can go to Asia, and you can go down the Mekong from Ho Chi Minh City to Siem Reap and see Angkor Wat. while you stop in these unbelievable villages along the way in Cambodia and Vietnam and see what life is like there, because for many people, it hasn't changed very much in decades. And then when you're an American listening to this, you come back to the United States and you want to kiss the ground because, and this is how I feel, because I feel so fortunate that I was born in this country. Just so fortunate I was born in the United States, because we have an amazing country. It's absolutely beautiful. There's so many sights to see. There's so many experiences you can have here. But at the same time, in order to appreciate what you have here, it's really important for you to experience things outside of the US to understand just how lucky you are and how fortunate you are. Well, I thought this would be a quick podcast, but man, I really, really got into it and I really enjoyed sharing these experiences with you. And I hope you enjoyed them too. Remember, this is the Travel Expert channel. And if you are a travel professional, you should reach out to me because I want to hear from your experiences, just like I heard from Linda Mitchell about some amazing properties that I wasn't even aware of, like the Caribbean Club, on Grand Cayman. I didn't know about that property. And the first thing I'm thinking is, man, I used to take my family to Mexico and we would stay at an all-inclusive. I would book 10 rooms over the Christmas holiday and invite folks to come down. And we would have like this family reunion gathering, et cetera, every year when I owned my company. And we haven't done that since I sold my company. But then I'm thinking, man, that Caribbean Club would be amazing because you can basically take over one of these large units or multiple units. And Linda was like, man, like she sold me on it. And that's what I love about sharing these experiences. So if you haven't yet, please sign up at traveltube.com so you get our newsletter. Follow us on your favorite social media apps, meaning all of them, please. And then follow us on the podcast apps because you can consume this content no matter where you are. Okay. And you don't see the video, but at the same time, you get the insight and the information. That's all I've got for you. Till next week, next time. You have a great week.